I'll walk you through the agreement and we'll get everything rocking and rolling. Adrian will go over, check out the property tomorrow. If everything checks out, we'll start running title. And we'll buy the house in probably the next like 21 to 30 days. Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's your boy Mike Gomes. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into it, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, because today we're going to listen to a call of a deal that I closed. So a community member from the Blueprint community, if you're not in that community, by the way, hit the link in the description below. It's going to take you to the free private Facebook group so you can get in that community. A community member brought me a lead, called the lead, locked this thing up, and now we're doing a deal together. Pretty dope, right? But there's a lot to unpack on this call. There were so many things. It's a little bit lengthy. It's like a 30-minute call, but we ended up getting a contract the second call after this call. Pretty much I closed her on this particular call, then we had to go over the agreement on the next call, okay? So let's get right into the call. If you have any questions about this call, feel free to shoot me a DM because there's a lot to unpack. Let's get into it.
Hello.
Hi, is this Denise?
Yes.
Hey, Denise, my name is Mike. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Adrian's one of my partners, and he was telling me to give you a shout about this property that you got in Maryland.
Yes, sir.
How's everything going with it?
Well, it's kind of it hasn't been lived in a year. So it's kind of going down a little bit. There are some things that needs to be fixed or needed to be fixed. There may be additional things now since it hasn't been lived in. We only go down to check on it maybe once a week. But we're not maintaining the house. We're just kind of like trying to gradually get the stuff out that we don't want to leave. Because again, my parents who are, elderly and their health is kind of declining. It's been a house I grew up in. So they've owned the house, I think, for 65 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so they won't be going back. They live with me now, and that's where they'll be. So we're just trying to figure out, when they moved in with me, and I told Dad, hey, look, you're not moving back to the property. What's the best thing to do? So we all agreed to put the property on the market. So we put it on the market, and the first day, I think we got 8 offers. And this was last summer. With the offer that we accepted, we did the inspection. From the inspection, we learned that, the well and the septic and the foundation all needed to be repaired.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so we were thinking that, it will be more than what it's worth. And we were just trying to sell it as is.
Right.
So, because again, I think what's more valuable than the house itself is the property and the privacy. And because it's a rural area, most people down there that live in that area, they they have farms. A lot of them have, areas where they have big gardens and stuff like that. It's more catered to people, a lot of other people down there, they have like, kind of like a auto fix-it shop in their yard. So it's just because, it's just back off of a main road. We've always gotten, since we lived there over the years, how people like the privacy.
Yeah.
So, and my mom, who has dementia, but her aunt lived next door, and her aunt is the one who they bought the 1 acre from. My mom and dad have 1 acre, and she has about 7 or 8 acres. My aunt passed away many moons ago, and my mom's cousin owns it now. She doesn't want anything to do with the property. She doesn't even live in the area anymore. And initially when Mom and Dad were in a good place a couple years ago, we were discussing how we could, accrue that property, the adjacent property next door, 7 or 8 acres, so that we could, have the whole, 9 acres or so, um, let mom have that.
Right. So what
But
did your aunt end up doing with that house?
well, it went to her niece. Well, it's my mom's first cousin. It went to my
Got it.
mom's first cousin, and she's the one that doesn't live locally. And again, she wanted nothing to do with it at the time, and she was very wealthy, and the property kind of meant nothing to her. So that's why we were going to discuss with her getting the property off of her hands. But her husband died around the same time, and we actually have not heard from her at all. It's kind of like she went MIA after her husband passed away.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
It
Um,
is.
so pretty much that property, you don't really know what is going on with this one, but as far as your parents' property, they ended up moving in with you. You're taking care of them, and then now you guys don't really know what to do with this property that your parents used to own, or used to live in.
Exactly. And because, and even during the time we were going back and forth to try to sell the property, my dad, he was like, "Oh, I don't want to sell it anymore." And my dad is very territorial about the property, but I know we don't even discuss with him that the house is in pre-foreclosure, because I know it will break his heart. But he still is aware that he's not going back there. So he wants one of the children or grandchildren to accrue the property, but nobody wants it. So what do you do?
Oh man, this is tough. Yeah, I'm actually doing a deal. I'm up in Boston, and I do deals nationwide. But I'm doing a deal right now up in Boston where it was the same situation. This guy Ralph owned a property for literally like 55 years. And it was just hard for him to finally get rid of it and move on. He ended up moving over to Arizona, but we had multiple conversations, and he was going through pre-foreclosure as well. And I'm just like, Ralph, man. And granted, I don't know if your father's like in the picture or what that looks like, but for Ralph, it was tough to convince him to be like, yeah, I gotta go. So like I was talking to the guy for like 6 months straight, and it literally came down to the last, like, I think it was 3 days before his property was about to get foreclosed on. And he was like, Mike, I need help. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna lose my house. And I'm like, dude, I've been telling you for 6 months. And
Right, exactly.
yeah, so where is like your parents in the situation? Like, I know you said your father obviously wants to have a family member buy the house, but like, are they
Yeah.
in the decision
Yeah.
making at all, or is that completely you at this point?
I kind of make all of the decisions for them. My dad is in his right state of mind. My mom is not. She has dementia. And my dad has always been wishy-washy. And the one thing about dad, his mom has always made the decisions for the household. And with her having dementia, now he's having to step up. So I'm the backfill to help him make decisions. But normally, I make the decisions for him regardless. So ultimately, I have this, I have power of attorney, and I'm like, Dad, we have to do something with this property. And he was like, well, I want to talk to the mortgage company. Maybe I can work something out. I'm like, what do you want to work out for a house that is, kind of like going downhill quickly, and you don't plan on living there again?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he gets, his thrill just by going to visit the house,
Yeah.
once a week, once a month. But I can see now where at first he wanted to go there like every other day, and now he's at the point when he goes there, he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I mean, the house just, it looks, it smells differently, and he can see it declining, and I think it breaks his heart. But I can tell the attachment that he had, he doesn't have it as much anymore. I think he would rather see it sold, and I think too it's his pride. He doesn't want, you know, that's the house they lived in all their lives, as a married couple. So he doesn't want people saying, "Oh, their house foreclosed on." So a little bit of his pride, you know, I really don't give a crap. um, I have no attachments to that house at all, and probably because my mom and dad are still living. Now, if they were not here, I probably would feel some kind of way, but right now I don't.
Right.
So I'm like, whatever we can do to try to get rid of it so dad can still have some self-esteem about, you know, hey, I took care of my house, I took care of my family. I did ask him today, I'm like, Dad, you lived in the house for 65 years, I think 65 or 66. I'm like, why isn't the house paid for? Why do you still owe like 160 some $1,000 on the house? And he was like, he was thinking, but again, because mom made all the decisions, my dad probably doesn't know what happened. I can't say that they took out a second mortgage because my mom and dad, maybe back in 2009, they sold my grandmother's house and they probably netted probably about $130,000 cash.
Mm.
So, and what they did with that 130,000, they paid off all their bills, not the house, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but they had the house gutted and redone. So the house was not that long ago. Not that long ago was redone.
You say that was 2009?
Mm-hmm.
Got
So
it.
that's why we're so surprised to see that the foundation is kind of like messed up because I mean, of course, the rest of the house looks a lot better than it did back in 1960 something. But the foundation is the problem inside the house. Now, outside the house, the well and the septic, those are two separate things. But they didn't get that fixed. But the home itself, they had it redone, and it looks a lot better. But it's not really withstanding the time because it's kind of like when you walk in, you can kind of feel like you're going up and down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So pretty much they got that money from the sale of your grandmother's house, and then from there they put some love into the property. They ended up listing the property years later. And I'm assuming the property was in pretty good condition as far as like the cosmetic stuff. Like they probably did a new kitchen and bath and stuff like that.
Right, they did.
Got it. So they pretty much did all the cosmetic stuff and then put it on the market, and then realized when they put it on the market that there was a septic issue, well issue, and foundation issue. And the only person that could buy it is a cash buyer.
Probably, yes. The lady that wanted to buy the home, she was even willing to get like a second mortgage or something to take care of the septic and the foundation and the well issues. But I guess she didn't get approved. And so at that point in time, my dad was losing faith, like, oh, I knew we could never sell this house. And I'm like, Dad, that's not true. He was like, well, I don't want to sell it anymore. So I just let it go. And then he was making mortgage payments on it for the next 3 or 4 months. And then they officially moved in with me. So I'm like, we have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So by that time, you know, no more offers on the table. And even the real estate agent who was familiar with selling properties in rural areas such as that, she had someone come down and look at the well, the septic, the foundation. She was very knowledgeable about that. You know, she was trying to, she said, you know, we can sell this house. You might not make anything off of it, but we can sell the house. And you know, she needed this, that, and the other. And again, I just think we were like, this is just too much.
Okay. Well, let's start off with your goals. Like, what are you looking to accomplish? And then we can kind of tackle what you think your father's goals are, if they're not the same.
Um, Even initially, we're not looking to make anything off of the property. We just want my dad's name free and clear. We don't want to mess his credit up. Just want to be able to, you know, get rid of the property and, you know, just be free and clear of it. You know, there are some things down there that we need to get. There is a shed in the back of the property that has a lot of things that they've accrued over the years. I mean, things that, need to be cleaned up. But for the most part, we really, we don't want the property. We don't want anything or want anything to come from this. We just want to sell the property or get rid of it.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then what do you think your father thinks about that?
Well, the same thing. He doesn't want the house to foreclose on.
Right.
That's his goal. He would love to keep it, but since nobody wants the property, and it wouldn't make sense for him to try to, salvage, the house and catch up on the payments. Yeah, because I think we calculated it's about $2,400 in arrears. I mean, 24,000, I think, or something like that.
So to reinstate the loan, would have to come up with 24K.
Probably, yes, unless they did like a forbearance or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, because I thought it was very, very weird. When mom and dad moved in with me, I took over like paying the mortgage, and I called them to tell them, I'm like, hey, look, I'm their daughter. I'm the power of attorney. I'll be paying the mortgage. And they were like, well, do you want the mortgage turned over into your name? We can take it from their name to your name. And I'm like, it's that easy? And I'm like, no, I don't think I want that headache. I don't want that on my credit.
All right.
But,
good move, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I said that's a good move.
Yeah, it was almost like they could just transfer the property to me with, no quirks or anything. I'm like, okay.
For sure. Yeah, actually, so one of the main things that I do in my business, and this is why Adrian gave me a call, is help stop foreclosures through a couple different ways. The main reason that I stop foreclosures, or the main way that I stop foreclosures, is to somehow figure out what we can do with the bank, whether it's either reinstating the loan, or just paying the arrears off, or just paying the total payoff off and buying the house. But ultimately, we end up buying the house in whichever option we figure out which is best in order to stop the foreclosure, because there's like so many different ways. So it comes down to getting on the phone with the bank and trying to figure out where they're at, because every bank is kind of different with their process and stuff, and what we can do. So we'll just have to get on the phone with the bank and try to figure out exactly what is going on, like when the foreclosure date is and all that stuff. Do you know if there was an auction date yet?
I don't know. There was a guy there yesterday that put something on the door. Now my son went down today. He took mom and dad. So he'll probably bring back whatever was on the door, what was left there, because I do have cameras down there. So that I can kind of monitor it, because it is about 30 miles away from us, which is not far, but because I'm taking care of them all day, I don't really feel like after logging off from my computer, driving that far. But I don't know. Is that something? And I talked to the guy the day before yesterday, and he did tell me what I needed in order to allow someone else to call in and be able to get information that they require, like the name, the address, their telephone number, email address, things like that, that he said I would need to submit to the mortgage company, to them, so that someone else can inquire, and ask whatever questions needed to be asked, So.
Okay, cool. So the fastest way to solve the problem is to just buy the house in cash. And that's pretty much like, I do probably about 5 deals a month, and out of all 5 of them, usually 4 of those deals, we just buy the property in cash, and we are now the owner. We do a little bit of rehab, and then we either make it one of our rentals or we resell it. So that's the very fastest way to stop the foreclosure. I'm not sure if where you're at is a total payoff of the 160 something. Let's just call it like 165. Let's just say 165 is a total payoff. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to qualify this for the portfolio at 165, given the foundation issues and the septic. I know Adrian's gonna head out there tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. With that being said, if the property is in decent condition as far as like cosmetics and everything, I can go back to my money guy while we're on the phone right now and figure out if, you know, with the property being in decent condition, not including the foundation issues, septic issues, and well issue, if I can get 165 approved, and if I can, we'll just have Adrian go out there just to check everything out, just to have our ducks in order tomorrow. But if I can get 165 approved, what we can do is we can go under agreement at this 165 number, show that over to the bank. They'll stop the foreclosure immediately because they know that there's a buyer in place. And then from there we can close as fast as like 30 days. So that's the fastest way to do it. And I think at the 165 number, I might be able to get the money guys to approve this thing. So
So
I mean, before we go down that road, what are you hoping is the best scenario?
I'm just hoping, I can find an investor or someone that just will buy the property or assume it, because we were talked about that. My brother-in-law was just going to take over the mortgage. He's military. He was going to use his VA.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thought about it. He was like, well, I don't know if I want that headache. When I could be using that money, to buy another property. He and his wife, my sister, are trying to buy a bigger house. So, like he thought about it and then he changed his mind very quickly.
Okay.
Because I'm looking here, outstanding balance but not payoff amount is 163.
Well, that was the next thing, and I'm not going to overwhelm you with a bunch of different things because I think we might be able to get something done here in cash. I'm not going to make any promises. But in the event we can't make something work, like we go out to the property and the foundation issues are just too bad or whatever, right? What can end up happening is we could end up taking the responsibility of the mortgage. And I'm not going to overwhelm you with how we could do all that and all the legalities of everything, but pretty much what would happen is we would figure out the what we can do with the reinstatement. We would take care of that so you guys wouldn't owe the $24,000 in arrears. We'd take care of that completely, and then we would just take the responsibility of the mortgage going forward, and we would make it one of our rentals. So if we cannot buy your house in cash, that is the second thing that comes up, right? Which I think we're probably going to be able to buy your house in cash, but in the event we can't, we could do something where we take the responsibility of the mortgage. That way the $24,000 is no longer a thing anymore. And the mortgage is being performed on. That way there's no foreclosure. So that's the second option. Like I said, the reason why we always choose the first option is because it's the most quickest, cleanest, easiest way to do it. And then in the event it's just too much, we can always go down the second option. And the second option is how I buy every single one of my rentals. So it's like something that we do on a monthly basis.
Okay. Yeah, because there were so many people coming at us, like they wanted to rent the property. And my dad, he knew these people. He was like, I don't want them living in my house. And I'm like, well, Dad, no one's living there. I don't know. My dad, he just
No,
looks at things a lot differently. So
it sounds like my grandfather.
yeah, he is. He's not easily swayed, but that's why sometimes I just step in. I'm like, hey, look, I don't even include him. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I'll tell him later. Hey, Dad, he's always like, I'm like, Dad, you want to get your car fixed? And I'll get it fixed later. I'm like, you're 82 years old. What is later for you? So sometimes I just step in and I'm like, you're holding on to your money. If you and Mom need something, get it. If you want something, go get it. I just believe in, enjoy your life.
This is why us men need women in our lives.
Yeah, I'm like, and I have to buy his clothes, his shoes, and he was like, I'm getting all these compliments now, how well I look. I'm like, yeah, because you've been depriving yourself, things that you could afford all along. And I'm like, I'm not spending my money anymore. My husband and I just bought a $730,000 house.
Dang, okay.
$500 a month. So,
hold on, congrats about that. That's a big accomplishment. I love that.
Well, thank you. You know, we had to buy a bigger house because of mom and dad, and we needed a house with a master bedroom on the main level. So we had to make adjustments for them. So I'm like, you know, we didn't need. I mean, my son is grown; his children are grown. We didn't need a 7,000 square foot house, but because my mom and dad live here, I'm like, okay, it's working out.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that you should wait until you're 80 to start enjoying your life. I'm like, I wish I had made this call with my husband and I. I wish I had did this 25 years ago.
Right. I love it.
So
I love that move.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, what I can do is I can go back to my lender and see exactly what we would get like the pre-approval for. And if all is well, then I'll give you a call back and I can walk you through the agreement. And then Adrian will go out there, check everything out. If everything checks out tomorrow, then we'll open escrow, we'll run title and do all the things to close on the property as soon as possible. That way there's no foreclosure. But in the event Adrian goes out there tomorrow and it's just a little bit too much and we have to take the second route, then we can hop on the phone with the bank and figure out how we take care of the $24,000, whether it's us paying up the $24,000 or figuring out some type of loan modification. We'll figure that out once we talk to the bank, like I said earlier. But
Okay, it's one of the things you'd like for me to do is they would know, the mortgage company would know if there is a sale date. Would they not?
yeah, that would be great. If you could figure that out, what they're probably going to do is they're probably going to direct you to what we call a trustee. So whenever a bank forecloses on a property, they hire a trustee, and that trustee is nothing more than an attorney. They're an attorney who pretty much facilitates the whole entire foreclosure for the bank, because the bank isn't in the business to foreclose on properties. They just hire somebody else to do it for them. So they're going to probably direct you to them, and then you're going to have a conversation with the trustee, and the trustee is going to say, hey, yeah, here's the date. Here's the reinstatement and all that stuff. You'll probably have to get a reinstatement letter, but they should give you at least the date on that first initial conversation so that you're ready for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as everything else, you said that you had POA, right? A power of attorney.
Yes.
Is that of both your mother and your father, or is that for just your mother?
I think it's for the both.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, because my dad is the one that wanted me to implement, and because he knows he's not great on making decisions. Yeah, I think it is for the both of them.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So what I'll do is I'll go talk to my money guy. And if you want, are you going to be around your father at all today, or?
Yeah, they'll be back probably in about an hour.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't I go have a conversation with my money guy, and then I have another meeting coming up here at 2:00. So I'll probably have to call you after that meeting, probably somewhere around like 3:30 or 4:00. I'll give you a shout.
Okay.
And then after you have a conversation with your father, if it's something that he wants to move forward with, if you want to just give him the rundown of everything that we went over with, I'll walk you through the agreement and we'll get everything rocking and rolling. Adrian will go over, check out the property tomorrow. If everything checks out, we'll start running title. And we'll buy the house in probably the next like 21 to 30 days. Hopefully that's what happens. Like I said, that's the easiest, cleanest type of deal that we could do. In the event we go there and it's just a little bit too much work for us to do that, then we can hop on the phone with the bank. And I've talked to the bank multiple times, so I can I'll pretty much just go in as one of your friends helping you out with the mortgage stuff, and I'll just ask some questions to the bank, and we'll figure out what we can do with the 24,000.
Okay, well, I'll let you know now. My dad, because he doesn't want to go into foreclosure, he'll be on board. I already know because, like I said, if he knew the status of the property right now, he would be very worried. But because I don't want to worry him, I'd rather just be able to tell him, hey, look, Dad, we have a buyer for the property and they're going to be buying the house in the next 30 days. You're not going to make any money off of it, more than likely, but we can get this off of your record like a foreclosure. And I think ultimately that is what he wants. He does not want, you know, people knowing in the neighborhood, all his family and friends that he grew up with, knowing that he foreclosed on the property that
Yeah,
he very well should have paid for 2 times over. So
I got you. You know what? It's actually the reason why I got in this business. When I was younger, my father had this property. My father and mother got a divorce, and my father had still owned the property that my mother was living in, and the property ended up getting in like very, very bad condition. So my father, as like he just didn't really know what to do. He wasn't really educated on like all the things that I know as far as how to stop foreclosures and all these different things. And ultimately, what ended up happening is his property got foreclosed on, and everybody knew everything's fine now. He's back on his feet and everything. But for the first like few years, he was down, and he was like, "Man, I feel bad. One, I let my family down, but two, like now everybody in the city understands that I have a foreclosure on my record." And he was just kind of embarrassed. So it's actually one of the reasons why I got in the business, to help people from that.
hello.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Okay, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's a great story, you know what I'm saying? Because you don't want, and I know with men especially, they don't want that reputation of like they let their family down, they failed their family, married or divorced. You know, a house that you put your name on, you want to, live an upright life and pay it off or get rid of it,
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
appreciate that. And I'm glad, you're doing the work that you're doing and trying to save people from, losing their homes and getting put out, so that's a blessing, definitely.
100%. Cool, Denise. Well, I will have a chat with my money guy, and I'll give you a call here in the next like few hours.
Okay.
Sound like a plan?
I'll call the mortgage company and I'll see exactly where they stand, if there's a date that's in place or not. And I'll let you know that once I talk to you later on.
Yeah, great. Because I mean, I don't know, you would probably get a notice, and maybe that's what the notice is from the door. It might be the notice of, hey, this is the date, right? But typically you'll get a notice, and that notice will be like somewhere between like 30 and 60 days out, sometimes 90 days out. So we have some time. If we're just going to buy the property in cash, we have some time to just do it that way. We don't have to, mess with the bank at all. But in the event we go there and the property isn't going to qualify for our portfolio, then we can just talk to the bank and we'll stop the foreclosure that way.
Okay. Sounds good, Mike.
All right. Amazing. Denise, I'll talk to you here in a couple hours.
Okay. Thanks for everything.
All right. Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon.